All right, y'all. So I want to do a video on a very controversial subject. This flag here. I've had this flag for quite a while, several years. I think I've had it, probably had this particular flag for about 15 years, 14, 15 years. Bought it in Alabama. No, sorry. I bought it in Florida, 2006, 2007, somewhere in that area. So I've had it for quite a while. Actually, kind of need to buy me another one, but be all right. But the controversial subject I want to mention, I want to ask a question. Is the Confederate flag racist? Now, I want y'all to think about this for a minute. This flag is an inanimate object. I'm going to get but the Nazi flag is racist? You can't compare the two. And I'm going to tell you why you can't compare the two. The Nazi flag, under that flag, the people who fought for that flag were committing mass genocide against a race of people. I would argue that you'd be very hard pressed to find mass genocide being conducted under the Confederate flag. I'm going to qualify my remarks here, by the way. Yes, you will not get an argument that simple minded, misinformed, uneducated bigots have hijacked the Confederate flag and Confederate symbols for racist purposes. You will never hear me say anything to dispel that. The Ku Klux Klan is a terrorist organization. They are, if you look up domestic terrorist in the dictionary, you're going to find some idiot in a white dunce hat. You're not going to hear an argument from me out of this. The Ku Klux Klan were terrorists, are terrorists to this day, even though now, thankfully, they've limited their activities to standing on some courthouse steps somewhere and spewing their hate. To talk about that, I have to talk about the First Amendment, and I have to say that though I thoroughly disagree with everything that they say and every word that comes out of their hateful little bigot mouths, I support their right to say whatever they want. I cannot be a lover of liberty and do anything else. I hate the fact that they abuse my flag, but I support their right to abuse my flag because I do love liberty. I support the freedom of speech. I support the U.S. Constitution. I support the Bill of Rights. Unfortunately, that means that I have to support the rights of idiots to spew hatred. And I would be lying if I said that I wasn't sickened by what they say. That being said, I am not a racist. I've got friends, and I hate to say this. It's going to sound cliche. Oh, I've got black friends. I'm not racist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going to go ahead and lay it on the line for you. I don't have black friends. I don't have white friends. I don't have Hispanic friends. I don't have Jewish friends. What I have are friends. I don't categorize my friends and put them into a certain group. I have friends of all walks of life. I even have some Islamic friends. And I will go ahead and admit this that after 9/11, I had a little bit of Islamophobia, but I got to know some Islamic people, and as a whole, they're not bad people. Just like as a whole, all of us who fly this flag are not racist. Yes, I can make that comparison. I don't generalize people in one category or another. If you do that, then you're a fool. You're limiting yourself. You're limiting you are limiting your own understanding of somebody else. If somebody sees this flag and they automatically say, I'm a racist, the only thing that says to me is that you're just closed minded, and more than likely you need to do some soul searching on yourself. Get to know me and get to know how I feel. I will be the first one to tell you that, people who think that somebody from another color or religion is less of a man or less of a human than them, I've got nothing for those people. I'll tell you right now, I don't hate anybody except child molesters. I do discriminate against them, but who doesn't? But when it comes down to it, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of what makes somebody think, it goes beyond their preference of flying a Confederate flag. First off, historically accurate, this is not the historically accurate flag. Contrary to popular opinion, it's not. When you look at people and you see, I'm gonna tell you, I've seen a lot of people who stand for this flag that are very racist. I will tell you this. I've even seen them in a 2021 world on Facebook in some of the groups that some people have added me to. I'm not going to name them because they're just not worth naming. But I've seen people who will post stuff like, and I swear to God, I've seen this. My daughter's dating a black dude. What do I do? That's racist. I have seen people post stuff like, my son in these same group, this same group, this one particular group that I've seen on Facebook. I've seen every one of these posts, and I'm going to quote: "My son's come out and he's gay. What do I do?" At that point, I catch myself wanting to type, just take a long walk off a short pier. But I can't do that. So I type nothing. I daydream about slapping the crap out of you, but I type nothing. Ignorance comes in all forms. I have seen ignorance in white people. I've seen ignorance in black people. I've seen ignorance in rich people. I've seen ignorance in poor people. I've seen ignorance in very well educated, formally educated people. And I've seen ignorance in uneducated people. Ignorance knows no bounds with people. And it seems today, with the invention of the internet, ignorance is showing itself, in my opinion, in more ways than it ever has shown. And to be frank, it's rather annoying. Ignorance would be somebody, or you, the viewer, saying that I'm racist for having this flag and wearing this hat. I wear this hat because I'm proud of my heritage. I wear this hat and I fly this flag because I love history. Because I believe that people are more than symbols. I believe, though I do recognize that certain bigoted groups have used this flag for the wrong reasons. I'm going to talk about other symbols that the KKK uses. The KKK uses the American flag. The American flag is not racist. The KKK also uses the cross. When they burn a cross, they call it a cross lighting. They look at the cross, a burning cross, and we all know what a cross is. It's a very Christian symbol. Jesus died for our sins on the cross. We all know this. If you don't believe it, I'm sorry you had to sit through me saying it. I hope you're not offended. If you are, I really don't care. But Jesus died for our sins on the cross. It is a sacred symbol. And yet, you have people who wear those pointy white dunce hats that hide their faces behind a sheet. And they take their bed sheets and make a robe out of them. And they set fire to a cross. They call it a cross lighting while flying my flag. That offends me. I am a historian, people. I am not a racist. My flag is a piece of cloth. My flag is not racist. I don't care who you are or where you come from, as long as you are a decent human being of good moral character, I'll sit down and talk with you. I want to give y'all a little bit of insight. I have lived in two of the biggest melting pots in this country, both of them in the South. There's three large melting pots that are located in the southern United States: Atlanta, New Orleans, which I have lived in, and Miami, Florida, which I've lived in. I want to tell you where I personally have experienced racism, been on the receiving end of it, is in one of those melting pots. It's in Miami, Florida, by people that I was working with in a very dangerous environment, a potentially volatile environment to where the man next to you or the woman next to you wearing the same color uniform that you're wearing better have your back, and you better have their back. Otherwise, somebody's gonna get hurt. I'm gonna tell you a little history on this. I was a correctional officer in the state of Florida from 2017 until 2020. Being a correctional officer that I was, I expect every one of my officers to have my back, and my officers expected me to have their back. North Florida, I had no question when I was in North Florida. When I went to South Florida, when I moved to Miami, and I transferred to a prison in Miami, I questioned it. Luckily, the prison that I was at was not that dangerous, but it was still a prison. Now, I had something on my vehicle that only one other person working there had on their vehicle. Yes, I did. I had a Confederate flag on my car. Oh boy, people didn't like it. I had a few people actually have the balls to come up to me, and they walked up to me and they said, "Hey, Sergeant Allen, why do you have the flag on your car? What does that mean?" And I would sit down and I would explain to them. One of the people is one of my best friends down there. He actually sat down with me and he asked me, "What does that mean?" And originally, this man is from Jamaica, but he immigrated at a young age to South Florida and lives there to this day. And he's still on the job. I'm not going to call his name. But if he ever sees this video, brother, you know I'm talking about you and you know I love you. But we worked night shift together and we would talk about it. And he figured out real quick that, holy man, Sergeant Allen ain't racist. He just loves history. And I do. There was a few other people. The first time anybody ever said, I'm going to go back. The first time anybody ever said anything about me, about my flag, I actually had the correct Mississippi flag, not this new crap they got, on my car. And I'd had it on there the whole time I worked there. I had this Jamaican lady who was well educated. She was one of the mental health people that work with inmates. Very nice lady. I'm not going to call her name, but very stuck in her ways. And she came to the U.S. and she lived in New York and now she lives in South Florida. And she pulled me aside. She goes, Sergeant Allen, speak to me in my office for a minute. We need to have a conversation. Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you? I seen something very disturbing out in the parking lot, and I'm told it's your car. Okay. What did you see on my car? You got a Confederate flag on there. At the time, all I had was a Mississippi flag on my car. I said, no, ma'am, I have the Mississippi flag on my car. I am from Mississippi. That is my home. I may have lived in Florida for 5 years, but it never was my home. My home has always been right here in the state of Mississippi. I've lived other places. This is home. I don't care if I move away from here for 50 years, this is still home. And I explained to her. And then later on, I acquired some bumper stickers and I put them on my car, and people didn't like it. Well, later on, about mm, 6, 7 months after this conversation happened, and nobody said anything to me about it, I saw officers walking around with Black Lives Matter pins on their lapel, which is completely against uniform policy. I saw it. I didn't say a word. The reason that I didn't say a word was, even though I could have, I mean, I was in a supervisory position. I didn't say anything because, quite frankly, I didn't care. Honestly, I did not give a damn. I still don't give a damn. But apparently, the warden of this prison noticed it and called one of the officers into his office. He goes, "You can't wear that on your uniform." Which, in all honesty, he was right. It is against uniform policy. When you are law enforcement, you, especially in the state of Florida, they tell you the only thing they don't tell you, and I think this is true with most anywhere that has a uniform policy. The only thing they're not going to tell you is what color underwear you wear. I mean, honestly, they tell you what color socks, what color boots, what type of boots. They give you the pants, they give you the shirt, they give you a tie if you so inclined to wear one with your Class A. They give you your patches on your shirt. They give you a hat if you're so inclined to wear one. It's not required, but you can. They tell you what color watch, ring, bracelet, whatever. The uniform policy states that if you are a regular officer or sergeant, your watch has to be a black band or silver. And if you are a lieutenant or higher, it has to be a gold or black band. And as far as rings goes, you can have a class ring, a fraternity ring, or a wedding ring. That's it. That's your uniform. And it's in policy. It doesn't say that you can't have, it doesn't say that you can have a Black Lives Matter pin. Now, I also firmly believe that if I would have took one of these pins off my hat, like that one right there, that one right there, or the big CSA in the middle, and put on my uniform, I honestly believe I should have been fired if I would have done that on the spot. And I admit that. I should be fired if I was to put one of those on there. Because at that point, you're creating a hostile work environment and you're starting shit. And you're also putting your life at risk with the inmates who, at that prison, there was predominantly minority inmates, black or Latino. You're putting yourself in a position to where you're going to push them to the point to where they're going to hurt you. Just the way it is. I mean, you are in South Florida, just think about it. Not too many people like me in South Florida. I think I was probably the only redneck in Miami. But what happened is when the warden told this officer, you can't wear this Black Lives Matter pin, she turned her attention to my car. When she turned her attention to my car, oh boy, it made us stink. Sergeant Allen's got all the rebel flags on his car, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I do. After this conversation, apparently the warden went to my captain and asked him to speak to me, which my captain told him basically no. Later on, I found out because my captain told me that the warden asked him to speak to me, and I told him exactly what I would have told him back then, which was, you can ask. You can ask as nicely as you want or as harshly as you want. My answer would have been, I'm not taking them off. Well, this particular officer decided to take it a step further. She decided that she was going to go onto Facebook and Instagram, show up at my house, which I was living on prison property in a little trailer, take pictures of my car in front of my house. It's a wonder my dog wasn't outside because my dog would have probably bit her. I'm just being honest. And post it all over the internet. And then somebody said, let me see that car and I'm going to run it off the road. The car, by the way, was a 2005 Crown Vic P71 police interceptor. Now, I am a professional driver by trade. I could drive anything with 2 to 18 or more wheels. I've been driving for 20 years. You're not going to run me off the road. I mean, hell, I got my license when I was 16. I'm 36 now. That's 20 years. You're not going to run me off the road. Not to mention, it was doubly funny because most people in Miami drive these little foreign cars, little Toyotas, and these little German cars, and they think they're all just hot shit. You're not going to run me off the road. It's not going to happen. But if you try, I'm going to assume my life is in danger and I'm going to respond using lethal force. My 45 is like MasterCard. You never leave home without it. So, just in case, as a preemptive measure, if I had to defend myself with lethal force, I want a paper trail. So obviously, I made a police report about it when I saw it. At first, when I saw the pictures, I was like, I don't care. Somebody had sent them to me. Then somebody told me, no, Sarge, go read the comments. So I did. I read the comments, and that's when I saw, let me see that car and I'll run it off the road. I don't respond well to threats. I'm not a man with threat. So I absolutely called the Miami-Dade Police Department, had them show up, made me a little late for work, but I called my captain and told him what I was doing, and he agreed with me. Now, because it started on the compound at work, I also had to write an incident report. I wrote an incident report and I attached all the screenshots because I emailed them to myself. You can't carry your phone on prison property, so I simply emailed them to myself and printed them out from email, stapled them to the back of the incident report, turned it into my captain, and he forwarded it to the warden. Now, I did not know that the Miami-Dade Police Department found the officer and showed up at her house. The next morning, I went to clock out. I passed said officer, who was crying, raising hell. I didn't know the police department had went up there and spoke to her at her house. I didn't hear her say this, but apparently I'm all kind of white honkies and crackers and everything else. Now, I have never called this officer anything except her name. I'm not going to say her name here because I'm just not going to do it. But that was some of the racism that I experienced down there by my fellow officers. I'm the one that flies this flag, not them. And I'm not racist. I don't treat anybody any different. I believe in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. I judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Anybody who judges anybody based on the color of their skin is a fool, and I have no use for it. You're not worthy of my time. You're not worthy of talking to me. But if you want to open up a dialogue about my flag, I will be very happy to sit down with you in a respectable tone and I will talk with you, as I did with several people down there. Ironically, the ones that gave me, the ones that asked me more about my flag than anything else, I'll go ahead and tell you this. Most of them were Jamaicans and Haitians. Of the Jamaicans and Haitians that asked me about my flag, most of them were born outside of the U.S. and they wanted to genuinely know why I flew it and why I felt the way I felt as far as the way the flag goes. And to those people, I say you had the fortitude to ask. And I want to say thank you Y'all are the reason I'm making this video. By contrast, having personally experienced racism on the receiving end in Miami, I can tell you that the most racist city that I have been to has been nowhere in the South. I have heard the N word used more in Boston than I have in Mississippi. Y'all think about that. Thank you for watching History Now as a Southern.